what's the one thing you're looking at for Sunday's game in Carolina versus Arizona?
Well, I think you're going to have a matchup of two really good defenses. You're going to have a matchup of two really good offenses. Problem with both defenses is, as we saw last weekend, they're both susceptible to giving up long drives and having the opponent march down the field on them. The Cardinals' defense almost blew the game, giving up two late Hail Marys to put the Packers back in the game and have them tie it up. And then the Panthers' defense, they jumped out to the 31-0 lead in the first half, and they almost gave it away in the second half. So, the pressure is entirely on both defenses that if their offenses get the lead, they can't give it right back. And, we're going to see whether or not Carson Palmer can actually win the big game when he has to, because that's been the knock on him since his Cincinnati days. Cam Newton, he's going to have to put the whole offense on his shoulders. He's been doing it all year with a limited receiving core. He's going to have to look for Greg Olsen. John Stewart is going to have a big game in the backfield. In the end, though, I think Carolina winds up pulling it out of a close one, even though I would love to see Larry Fitzgerald get back to the Super Bowl before he retires.
One thing I'm looking at towards this game is you have one of the best offenses. You have one of the better offenses in the Carolina Panthers going up against one of the top defenses in the Arizona Cardinals. And I think where if you're Carolina is, I remember a couple weeks ago they played the Giants and they were up 31-0 and they almost blew that game. You don't want to have it where all of a sudden you're up 31-0 against this Arizona team. All of a sudden Carson Palmer gets hot again, and next thing you know, you're down 35-31. So I think if you're Carolina, I think you want to just continue to put pressure on Arizona. And yeah, Arizona doesn't have the offense like Carolina does. But if you're Carolina, you want to win this game and go further on, I think you're going to have to keep Palmer and the Cardinals offense off the field. And I think realistically, in the end, it's one of those things that if you are Carolina, I think this will do wonders for you. In your opinion, who has the advantage at the quarterback's position, Cam Newton or Palmer?
Well, I think just based on the way they're playing, I would probably give a slight edge to Cam Newton. Carson Palmer, he didn't look great last week, and as much as he probably should be considered the better quarterback just because of his experience, and he is the more pure pocket passer of the two. I just think Newton is more of a total package in that he can run if he has to, he can dominate running out of the backfield, and he's been able to make the throws when he has to. Like I said about Palmer before, he still hasn't really shown that he can bring his A game to a big game. So I think until he proves that he could do that, you have to consider the Newton the better of the two quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Blayne, I completely agree with you from what you're saying, and I think it's the only way you can really look at it. You got to realize you're Cam Newton. You pretty much have led this offense the entire season, and to me, it shouldn't make a difference if it's one game or not. I think realistically, in the end, you should still be looking at this as it's still a game. And realistically, I mean, he's been in this situation before. I mean, there's no reason. It's definitely obvious why this team went 15-1, to say the least. And I think in the end, though, I think realistically, you're 15-1. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you have a decent quarterback, to say the least. And I think Cam Newton right now, in the end, is one of the better quarterbacks currently in the league. He's not, I wouldn't say he's a top-tier quarterback. Like, I wouldn't put him in the Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger category, but he's like, I would say he's like a little bit above. It's almost like he's between Category A and Category B, and Category A is your Hall of Famers, and Category B is your, what's his face? The guy from Atlanta. I'm now drawing a blank on who he is.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. I think he's a little bit better than Matt Ryan, a little bit better than Phillip Rivers, and I mean, am I wrong for thinking that he's kind of in between, so to speak?
I think you can make a case for putting him towards the bottom of the top 5. So I think based on what you're saying, somewhere between 4 and 7 would probably be appropriate. But, I mean, in terms of the way he has played this year, there aren't too many quarterbacks who have played better than he has this year. I mean, you're looking at Brady's played better than him. Manning has not played better than him at any point this year. So I think Manning, just based on the way he's been this year, he's probably fallen out of that top tier. And we'll see on Sunday if he can get back to it for at least one more game. But I think Aaron Rodgers is probably still on top of him. And maybe one or two other quarterbacks you could probably put ahead of him. But he's creeping up there.
Who has the advantage on offense? Is it the Panthers or is it the Cardinals?
Well, I think I would give a slight advantage to the Panthers, like I said, with the quarterback, just because, if we're considering Newton the better quarterback, I think you kind of have to consider the Panthers' offense slightly better. Palmer has better weapons at his disposal, just the way Larry Fitzgerald has, turned back the clock by about 5 years this season, and he's still dominating the way he used to. You have David Johnson in the backfield, the rookie who took over for Chris Johnson when he went down, hasn't missed a beat. But I just think with the way that Newton has been able to use his limited receivers, and he hasn't had much at the receiver position outside of Ted Ginn, and he's used Greg Olsen very well this season, and the way John Stewart has been able to produce out of that backfield, I just have to give the advantage to him. I think he's got a better offensive line that's been able to do a lot to help them out tremendously over there. And I think the difference between the teams in Greg Olsen, having that tight end to be able to be the security blanket for him, is something Palmer doesn't have, that he's probably going to be very upset that he doesn't have this weekend if the linebackers of the Panthers are able to continue to put the pressure on him that they did last weekend.
In your opinion, I mean, the game is in Carolina Sunday. How does Arizona have a shot at all to win this game?
Well, I mean, they have a shot just by the fact that they made it this far in a year where no one really thought they were going to win the NFC West. Everybody kind of handed the Seattle the NFC West, just assuming they would get back to winning their fourth straight division title, trying to get back to their third straight Super Bowl. And not only did they get off to a great start, but they were able to continue it later in the season, and they came very close to having this game played in Arizona. So I think they definitely have a chance. They have a pretty good defense. They have a good offense. It's all about how far Carson Palmer is going to be able to take him. Will he finally show up and have the big playoff game that has eluded him in his career so far?
I completely agree with you. And I guess what I can kind of say for that one, I think the only way the Cardinals have any shot to win this game at this point is simple. Like I was saying before, with how Carolina needs to keep how Carolina needs to keep the Arizona offense off the field, I think you got to do the reverse opposite if you're Arizona. If you can keep Cam Newton on the sideline more times in the game, I think because then you're giving your team more opportunities to win, but then you're also giving realistically, you keep him off the field, you're kind of letting yourself have a better shot to win the game. We just talked about how we think Arizona's going to win. On the flip side of the spectrum, how do we think Carolina, if they have a shot to win?
Well, I think, in spite of the fact that they've come close to blowing some leads lately, I think they have the shot to win just because I look at their defense and I see a stronger defense than Arizona's, if only slightly. You look at Arizona and their sum total is better than their individual parts. If you look at the Panthers, they have the star power. They have arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league with Josh Norman, the way he has played this season. And you have two of the best linebackers in the league with Luke Kuechly, who's probably one of the top 5 linebackers in football right now. And you have Thomas Davis playing at such a high level. So, I mean, when you have those 3 guys leading a very strong defense, I think they have a better shot than Arizona to having their defense lead the way. And then if you look at the offense, I mean, they got out to a 31-0 lead in the first half, and the offense was a large part of that. And Cam Newton didn't even have a big game. So I think those are the main reasons why they can win. They have one of the best young quarterbacks in football in Cam Newton. If you're looking at quarterbacks who still haven't really hit their prime yet, and like we said, they don't have the best wide receiving core, but they have one of the best tight ends in football, in Greg Olsen, and Jonathan Stewart has had a very good comeback season this year.
Do you have a prediction for who do you think will be representing the National Football Conference in San Francisco in February for Super Bowl 50?
Again, like I said earlier, I think you are going to see Carolina make it to the Super Bowl. As much as everybody kind of wrote them off and we're calling them the worst undefeated team in history at one point, I think they're going to prove a lot of people wrong and get to the Super Bowl. Second time in Carolina history.
I completely agree with you. I think in the end, I think Carolina's going to win this game. As much as it would be nice for Arizona to get into the Super Bowl, the last time they were in, they played not San Francisco. They played Pittsburgh, and in the end, I think Carolina wins